The AEW Continental Cup kicked off on Collision last night, and it already proves that AEW does the best singles action. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody, to Screw Script. I'm your host, as always, Maverick. Thanks for joining me on Sunday. Today, we're going to talk about Collision yesterday, the Continental Cup, and why I feel like AEW is the absolute best at singles competition. Right up there is the card that we got for Collision last night, and it was another great start-to-finish Collision, match after match after match after match. Collision puts on more matches every Saturday and sometimes Thursdays than you get from a certain other company combined with their two biggest weekly shows. Jungle Jack Perry and the Bang Bang Gang versus the Death Riders, one of the only couple of matches on the entire card that wasn't singles action, and we saw the Death Riders win again by interference. The Bang Bang Gang and Jack Perry cut two great promos backstage later on in the night, as we see that Jack Perry is going to face Jon Moxley one-on-one in the Continental Cup, and we have the Bang Bang Gang's leader Jay White versus David Finlay from the Dogs, and the Dogs also cut a very interesting promo. I really liked the promos that were last night, but let's get into the main chunk of this video. Brawling Birds had a solid win, tag team action. Divine Dominion came out and jumped them and put one of them through a table, or almost through a table. And then we saw Persephone and Sheeta win a tag match. And then we saw a quick tag win by Trios win by the Rascals, and they also cut a good promo. So that's wrapping up what also happened on Collision last night outside of singles action. But now let's get into three incredible singles matches for the Continental Cup, and then even a match that wasn't in the Continental Cup that was still better than 99% of pro wrestling outside of AEW. Speedball Mike Bailey, Myron Reed. Myron Reed deserves props. He pulled double duty last night in Collision, and that dude can fucking go in the ring. Him and Speedball had a great one-on-one match, back and forth action. Speedball comes out on top there, and then he was called out backstage by Nick Wayne, as we see next week on Dynamite on Wednesday. We're going to have Nick Wayne, MJF, and Speedball for the number 2 spot in that Casino Gauntlet match. That is going to be at All In. And now on to the Continental Cup matches. One banger after a banger after a banger. 3 bangers for the night. Matt Sydal and Orange Cassidy. Great chemistry in the ring, those two. It's fun to see Matt Sydal back. He's 43 years old. Now, typically, I don't like wrestlers that are highlighted that are 40 to 50 years old that are on weekly. This isn't it. That's not the same argument there. Matt Sydal is not on weekly, and he also didn't pick up the win against Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy ended up winning. But Matt Sydal, even though he's 43, he can actually go in the ring. As long as he can actually go in the ring, unlike crap myself Punk, who's also in his 40s but gets gassed 5 minutes in. Matt Sydal is way better conditioned than CM Punk, and he came up short, but glad to have him back. Then we had Claudio versus Ace Austin. I love Ace Austin and his tree trunk legs, but he came up short against Claudio. I was 2 for 2 at this point, but to make it even sweeter, and my Collision Maverick moment goes out to Eddie Kingston pulling off the upset against Jake Doyle, as this is how the match finished as my Maverick moment.
Dragon Sleeper, his version of it. He's got Jake Doyle in the Dragon Sleeper.
Great Maverick moment, and I went nuts. Great way to finish off the show. Before the match, too, Eddie Kingston called out Jake Doyle saying, You don't rule, I'm the king here," referencing to a very funny Adam Sandler movie. And honestly, at the end of the match, Eddie Kingston had Jake Doyle feeling like this.
Doyle rules! Doyle rules!
Had to throw in that bit there. But all in all, great Collision. I'm 3 for 3 on the predictions. And we also saw a potential addition to All In at Wembley. We have possibly a match between Kevin Knight and Darby Allin. Called out Kevin Knight to put on his TNT championship on the line against him at All Out. in a Falls Count Anywhere, I believe it was, or something along the lines of that. I can't quite remember exactly what Darby said, but that should be a good match if that comes to fruition. In other news for AEW real quick, we see that not only Andrade, who's probably going to have a match against MJF, because I feel like another upset's going to happen and MJF is not going to win his match on Dynamite, because I think Andrade is going to jump him and get the better of him and cost him that match. And we're going to see MJF versus Andrade at All In, because Andrade calls him out on socials right here. He's one of two people. The real champion, the real Latino man. You're not a champion. Respect the champions, as he calls out MJF. And even part of the Don Callis family, protostar Kyle Fletcher called him out after he posted this the other day, saying that he's incredibly grateful, flying home today, living his best life, his childhood dream, never going to take it for granted. MJF goes on to say, what a mark, and Kyle Fletcher goes on to say, says the man cosplaying as a world champion. I know who sounds more like a mark. Please give me a face Kyle Fletcher run in the future, because I genuinely think he could be really good as a face or heel. He would be a great tweener for AEW. And the reason why I say, and I double down all the time on AEW being where the best wrestle, where the best singles action happens, like I mentioned at the top of this video, is because when you compare AEW to WWE, who a lot of people will say is still the better pro wrestling company, I disagree. It's for this very reason. Look at formerly known as Mariah May, Blake Monroe, has gone 6+ weeks, 0 matches. That's the shit that happens over there. They are not where the best wrestle. They're where the mediocre cut promos. I was about to say where the best cut promos. No, they don't even cut the best promos. They do promos and ads, mediocre wrestling in the ring, matches that are typically under 10 minutes, even on their PLEs. They are not where the best wrestle, not even close. And now on to my DDT of the video. I've got a doubling down take, so a positive take, as I took an idea from something that suggested I should shout out some positive takes more often on my channel, so I will do that. Thank you for that. You know who you are. And I got my daily dumb take, so we're combining the two. Let's get into it. First, the doubling down take. Then we'll get on to the laughable take. The real one at WWE Real One. This is interesting because I typically don't agree with a lot of the stuff this person says. But he goes on to say, the AEW still hasn't captured the casual fan talking point. It's so stupid. AEW has already surpassed TNA by miles and surpassed WCW. It's a legit competition, drawing 80,000 people in another country a couple of years ago. All In will have more people in attendance in WrestleMania than at WWE SummerSlam, which they have surpassed that. They're just shy of 40,000. SummerSlam didn't have anything close to that either night. Selling out the biggest tennis stadium, drawing nearly 1 million people a week when cable is dying. Fair point there. Drawing millions in revenue for pay-per-views. That happens every pay-per-view for AEW. AEW is the closest thing to competition to WWE in the longest time. They're still threatened. They've done this by putting on amazing product. They are thriving. Yes. Doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down on all those takes. The real one, I agree with you there. And now for the daily dumb take, we have Shit Takes by Tom. That's what I like to call them. Takes by Tom. I think this is his third time being on the DDT list on this channel. He goes on to say, this shit is fucking embarrassing, man. Eddie Kingston looks like an absolute slob. Does he even give a single fuck about himself anymore? This is where the best wrestle, really? Why the fuck is Eddie Kingston washed up ass beating Jake Doyle? If this is the best effort, he goes on to just keep ranting. Let's tackle this from the beginning. First of all, not embarrassing. Not every single wrestler needs to look like Matt Sydal in the ring. They don't need to look like Brian Cage in the ring, okay? Because, yeah, he doesn't have a six-pack, but he can go in the ring. He doesn't look like a slob. The crowd was behind him. And yes, AEW is where the best wrestle, because look at every match that happened on Collision this week was better than anything from the promotion that this person, Tom, typically hypes up more. And so for those reasons, you are this video's DDT. First person to possibly get to 3. It's either you or Raj Giri. So for those reasons, you are this video's DDT. That's all I had on this episode of Screw Script. Let me know down below what you thought about Collision. Are you perfect 3 for 3 like I am with the Continental Cup predictions? And let me know what you think about the card for Dynamite coming up this Wednesday. As always, this has been Maverick, the voice for you sickos out there. Thanks for watching.